Welcome, everybody. We're back for a Lorcana update. So we're filming this in the middle of July. So Lorcana is about 1 month out from its release. And the big question in everyone's mind, can you get this? I don't think anyone's going to be able to get it. So I thought we'd bring Andy on and talk a little about Lorcana. Yeah. What the heck's going on? Is anyone going to be able to play it? Is anyone going to be able to collect it? It seems like distribution is completely screwed up.
Yeah, good question. I think... So they had like this crazy OP program.
What is OP?
Organized play.
Organized play. Okay.
So like they had, I think so Wizards of the Coast, you can just have like kind of any store. You have some tables and chairs set up, and you sell some magic. And
yeah, it's very like everyman. Like magic is everywhere. It's like everyone can access it.
Space, but it doesn't have to be like super fancy and everything. Right. And you can become part of Wizards Play Network, right? But then Wizards also has this like Wizards Play Network Premium, which is like really hard to get, right? You get like assigned a case specialist, and they come out and they like look at everything, and they'll be like,
like check out the sturdiness of your tables, and like
you have to have like certain types of tables and certain like way things look and digital signage. And sure. I mean, I'm like oversimplifying it. It's like a year or 2 year process to become a Wizard Play Premium store. And the stores that get Wizards Play Network Premium are generally like pretty nice. I've been to a bunch of them. They're like really nice gaming stores, right? And sure. Admittedly so, like you put like 2 years of your life into trying to get this, you probably get some good results. I feel like Ravensburger was like, well, we're just going to have you do the Wizards Play Network Premium program to be part of our organized play. And maybe, not exactly, but like when you read through the like what they required, you're like, damn, like what store is going to actually meet all this stuff? Like
what are some of the things that were required? This is to have an organized play circuit at the store.
So that you can run their like leagues and stuff. Like you had to. So like part of Wizards Play Network Premium is you have to like provide them with sales history and sales receipts for like all different types of games that you play or sell, and like you have to have like so many of like different types of games and all this stuff, and that feels very much like lifted, right? Like Ravensburger just like lifted all that, and they're like, you have to have like 17 different types of games that you provide to people and play space for all of them and all this stuff. And you're like, who does this? Like people play Magic and like maybe Flesh and Blood. Like
well, it's also
maybe like Warhammer on a Sunday afternoon. Like there's not like who the hell's running all this stuff.
It sort of fundamentally seems like it misunderstands the audience. Like I'll just say like this is a game that I think it's Disney. Like there'll be lots of adults playing it, but I think you want to get the 12 to 16 crowd in there. And a 12-year-old does not care about like the lighting being LED lighting or something, or like the signage. Like they just want a table to play at with their buddies. So I think you're kind of fundamentally misunderstanding the clientele, it seems.
I mean, right? to be honest, fundamentally misunderstanding things is like my take on Ravensburger as a company. Right. So anyway, like, and yeah, I mean, I get the idea of like, it's Disney. You want to present like this, like great, like Disney experience for people. And like, if you go to Disney World, it's very different than going to like Six Flags. Right.
Right.
So like, I get there's like kind of that aspect of like the whole Disney stuff, but like, and like if Lorcana is also supposed to be targeting like kids, you want to make sure that it's like a safe space, a clean space for them and all that stuff. So like I get it, but like they just like the organized play structure was just like a mess, right, to apply. So some stores get it, right? But not all stores. And Ravensburger didn't seem like they printed enough product. And so distributors, there's 3 main distributors or 3 or 4 main distributors in the US for games Alliance and Southern Hobby and blah blah blah, all those other ones, right? And they're all allocated. Like the whole, like you could have ordered 100 cases and you might get like 8. Like my good buddy who's up in Queens in New York, like he has no table space. You're in the middle of Queens or like maybe
Right.
Brooklyn or something, and it's like, where are you going to have like 2,000 square feet of table space in a store on the second floor of like a storefront in Brooklyn to play this game? So like, he just clearly didn't even bother applying for the organized play, because when he reached out to them, they're like, no, you must have all these things. Great. So if you're in the middle of a major city, what are we going to do? Have a 4,000 square foot store in Manhattan? Like, this isn't Prada. Come on. Like, so like and then he gets a message and he's like, they were like, you can't, you're going to get no product. And they said, is something like we miss, I forget exactly what it was, but it's basically like we misread the market on this, and supply and demand has far outstripped supply. And it's like, how did you screw this up? You knew this from D23.
Right.
You put out 900 copies of a game. Like, if you put out, so like their whole thing is Villainous, right? You need one copy of Villainous. One. So like a comic book store, a game store, a board game store, they're going to order one. Maybe they have 2. And when they sell it, they're going to reorder one. That's how that game works. That's how all that stuff works. You're going to get people who are going to want to buy 15 cases of Lorcana. They're not going to like, I think you needed to come in with this with like, 2 million boxes or something crazy like that, millions of cards printed, and they're coming probably, I can see them be, it would, I mean, this is obviously not true, but like, I would not be surprised if they're like, yeah, we ordered 18,000 boxes of the first set from Cardamundi. I'd be like,
it's just like such a fundamental misunderstanding of how this stuff works, because if you want to have organized play, people need to have access to the products. Fundamentally, that's how this works. And if no one's actually going to be playing this, and it's just going to be a bunch of people scalping it, right? Like, oh, I managed to snag a box, I'm going to go flip it on eBay to someone else who's going to think that they can flip it on eBay again. It creates a pretty nasty death spiral of like, this game won't be in the hands of anybody besides collectors. And like, amongst the gaming coalition you need for any CCG to be successful, you need to have collectors, you need to have players, maybe a little bit of speculators, but I think you have no gamers that are going to be able to get this. No one's going to be able to play it. No one's going to have positive experiences. It's just going to be like an oddity that sits in a bunch of like Disney people's basements. Like, oh, I have a box of Lorcana. I got it on eBay for $380, twice MSRP. It's worth $700 now because they so underprinted this. And then the like local scene is going to be absolutely suffocated. And yeah, you might have sold out, but no one's going to be talking about it. No one's going to be streaming it. No, I mean, I can't get a box. Like, I would love to open a box on this channel. I can't get my hands on one. I don't know.
It feels very reminiscent to like when like Flesh and Blood first kind of like started clicking around like August or September of like 2020. I mean, the game had been out for like 9 months or a year or something by that point, but like when it started exploding and the cards just like went crazy in price, like you couldn't find it. And then it was just like, well, this box is $5,000 for a box of cards. And it's like Flesh and Blood, whatever company makes it, Legend Story Studios, they just like decided they're going to reprint like to the ground. Right. And they did. And the game, came down in price, but they still ended up having to do like, I don't know exactly what it's called. I don't follow Flesh and Blood super close, but it's like they basically like did not a second edition, but they like rotated or something like that. So like all the super expensive cards from like the first couple sets, like kind of rotated, I believe.
I mean, if modern Magic has taught me anything, it's truly that like these game cycles live in very small flashes, right? Like everyone was talking about the Lord of the Rings Magic set 3 weeks ago. Yeah, we've kind of moved on, right? And this is what could happen with Lorcana. printing one's going to come out with, Gen Con, maybe people get some stuff, and then local game stores. And then if people fundamentally can't get the product, maybe for 2 or 3 weeks, people will talk, hey, you don't have a box, but fundamentally, like, there won't be a local scene that develops. People won't be excited for the next set because they won't even have the first set, right? And yeah, maybe you launch a second one, but we will have all moved on, and no one can
Wizards will put out some absolutely banger Magic set again in November, and it's going to be the end of Lorcana, right? Like, if you can't get it, and then you also run into the whole thing, like, if you are trying to get kids, like, Pokemon is like, there's some obviously very expensive Pokemon stuff, but on the whole, Pokemon's not that expensive.
Yeah.
You go right into Target and you get some box for $19.99 or $24.99 or whatever, and it comes with 8 packs and a special foil or something. You can buy that. You could buy blister packs off the shelf in Target for $5 or something, right? So like a parent's going to buy that. But if you're suddenly like, well, you can get this and it's $400 for a box, like, no parent is going to be like, oh yeah, I'll just buy my kid a box of this for shits and giggles. Like, here you go, kid, have at it. And like, God forbid you get some like normie parent who like has no idea about collectibles or collectible things, and like this kid's like best friend in 2nd grade got like some packs, and he's like, oh, I want some of these, right? And he goes, dad, like, my buddy's got like Mickey Mouse cards. Can we go get them? And they like walk into a card shop, and the dad's going to have like a freaking heart attack on the floor when he sees a box of cards is $800, right? Like, that's a super bad look for Ravensburger. Like, you had to know coming out of D23 that this was needed to be printed to oblivion. And like, if you're not going to distinguish the cards with first edition stamps and foils and stuff outside of the D23 stuff, like they've already announced, like, the first waves of these like are not going to be like a first edition stamp, an unlimited version or something. There's nothing to distinguish them. Who cares if you print 1 billion of them, right? Like, there's no collectible inherent.
Well, also, it's just cheap to print cards, right? It's not like producing like engines, right? Where you don't want to have a warehouse of extra engines. It's like, truly, this stuff will move. If it doesn't move, you can move it to secondary. Like, there are ways of offloading massive amounts of product. And I don't think that was, It just feels like they kind of screwed this up.
Misstep. Best of luck to them, honestly. Like, I hope it works out. And
I refuse to buy anything that's not at MSRP. So if I can get a box at MSRP.
I had a D23 set. I had the Mickey Mouse. I had all this stuff. I decided, I was like, you know what? The best thing I can possibly do with this is like 7 times my money and walk away. And I did, and I sold it out. I sold out of it. And once I sold it, like, I was holding on to it because I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. But there's just other things that I'd rather collect. Like, I'm like, on a scale of like 1 to 10, I'm probably like a 3 for Disney. Like, I like Disney. My son likes Disney. I, remember the movies when I was a kid, and it was great. And, I like Disney for other things like Marvel and Star Wars. So I'd rather like do something better. Like, but I'm like a 10 for Star Wars, and I'm like a 9.5 for Marvel. So if I'm only a 3 for Disney, I'm just going to take the 7x my money and walk and go buy something that actually makes me happy. And then once I sold it, I was like, well, I don't really care about those sets coming out now. I'm not going to buy a box. Screw this. I'm not going to spend $500 for a box and I'm not going to get a full set. I'm not going to collect it. Like, I'm not ever going to play it. I'm not going to go to a local game store and sit down and play it and organize play to win a special weekly promo. Like, I don't, who's doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that no one learned the lesson that the key is not organized play. The key is fomenting an environment where people want to just play at home and at their friend's house. Like, that is the scene you want to cultivate. And maybe that culminates in a Saturday tournament at your local library, local whatever game store, whatever it is. But you want to have people with product in their hand that are able to play their friends at lunch and then talk about how they had a narrow victory. Like, whatever it is, like, that's what you want to be creating.
You want the story of the game that was just played 4-player multiplayer game.
And there's something you can thread the needle by, like, I get like Tickle Me Elmo, right? Like, these products are like hyped up around Christmas. I feel like I just dated myself.
You just went deep. What was it like calling Blockbuster on a phone?
But it's like there's a way of having like a very hyped product that is still available to a point where like people can find it. I don't think anyone's going to even find this because there's going to be some neckbeards. Please troll me in the comments, neckbeards, that just have 15 cases and will be slowly selling it on eBay to the poor parents that decided that their kid really needed this. So that's my last thought. Andy, you have some thoughts? We can wrap this up.
I think people will be able to get it eventually. I think the initial launch is going to, especially the first couple weeks before it hits like mass market, you're going to see the Wild West on eBay. And that's not going to be a great look. And then people are going to be, well, I'm just going to wait for it to hit Target. And then Targets are never going to have it because people are going to go and stalk the guys that come in and restock the card aisle and just buy all of it at once to try to resell or to, God forbid there's some like actual chase card that people want out of it. Like it'll just be a nightmare till November, December when they get the second set out and they realize they needed to do some like emergency first printing or like a second printing of the first set. And that's going to hit in November, December as well. But the first like 3-4 months are going to be all over the place.
Which like those months are really key to the long-term development and health of the game. So let's call it there, Andy. This has been a lot of fun to it's like that what grinds my gears, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So folks, I'd love to hear your comments. I know maybe we have some Lorcana fanboys that come in here and I will feed off your hate. Just it gives me more power. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.